Okay, now I'm getting ready to mask around these rails, and I've just cleaned them with some mineral spirit. I'm getting ready to lay out some masking tape. I'm going to gel coat a white strip underneath this. Just have to fill in all the areas that I sanded. I get a good nice few coats of white gel coat underneath, and that way you can see the railing at night. And also I'm going to put on some non-skid gel coat, so I didn't want to have any non-skid under the railing. That way you don't scrape your knuckles up when you're reaching for the rail. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape and leave a 1-inch gap on each side of the rail and 1 inch in the front of the rail. And then I'm going to probably tape and round the corners a little bit using a penny for my radius. I think might be the right size. And so let's see what happens. I'm using this wooden dowel here for just for a guide, so I can. It's 1 inch diameter, so I'm just going to kind of eyeball it around here to get the distance that I need. The 1 inch space on each side of this rail. I come up with this idea at the last minute. I needed something that was 1 inch wide. Unfortunately, I just thought of something. It worked great on this side, but because of the camber of my deck, it ain't gonna work so good on this side. So I'm gonna have to probably tape it on here. Okay, I'm getting ready to gel coat under the handrails now, and I gotta work fast. I just mixed it up, it's catalyzed. I'm going around with the rails attached to the boat first. That's the hardest part, is to apply this around these railings. I just did one of the rails on the other side of the boat, and I tried to pull the tape off around the parts that are attached to the deck, and just made a mess. The gel coat came up with it, and I tried to do it real quick while the gel coat was wet, and still made a mess. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just pull the tape around the outside first, and then let it set up somewhat, and then before it's totally cured, while it's still soft, I'm gonna take a razor knife and cut around these the stanchion parts of this railing, and maybe I can pull the tape off without making a mess. Unfortunately, it's just trying to reach underneath these things under the rail and not get your fingers in this gel coat. It's about impossible. Just trying to smooth it out as I go. I'm gonna have to come back later and sand it. There's no two ways about it. I thought about adding styrene to the gel coat here, and that makes it flow better and it makes it lay out flatter. But the problem is the top of this cabin's cambered, so it's sloped, curved, and I was afraid that if I made it any thinner than it is, it's going to run. And I don't need that. So the last rail I did, I didn't know how much to use, so I thought I'd play it safe and mix up plenty. I mixed up 8 ounces, and I used about not quite 4, so this time I only mixed up 4 ounces. And I just need to make sure I get all the way out to the edge, and a little bit over onto the tape so I don't miss anything. This is painting is not my favorite thing to do. I don't like messy stuff, but I do like to do oil paintings. So I do oil paintings. I used to be a whitewater river guide in Oregon, and took a lot of photographs, and I've done some original paintings based on the photographs that I've taken. And I don't mind oil painting pictures, but doing this kind of painting is not my favorite. I can't wait to get this done and get on with some other projects that are going to be more fun anyway. This has been a lot of work. This stuff's starting to gel now a little bit, and I think I'll get it though. Unfortunately, I can't really go back and tip it out because it gets more gelled and more gelled, and the more you mess with it, the worse it gets, and it just makes a mess. So whenever you're painting and you're using a bucket like this, or a little bucket, it's good to kind of tap the sides a little bit like this so you don't drip it. Now what happens if you wait too long and the stuff starts to gel, when you pull the tape up, it'll literally pull the Gelcoat right up off the surface. So let's see what we get here. Maybe I can do this all in one shot. There it is. Just like that. I just drop it in the bucket, and that's it. So now, I'm going to let this cure a little bit, and then I'm going to come back with my razor knife, and I'll trim around the edges for areas where this railing attaches to the deck. Because like I said, I'm trying to pull this tape off. I tried it on the other side, and the Gelcoat came up with it. Trying to get your hands under there to pull that tape up, you end up getting it all over. So, at any rate, I got 2 more rails to do, and I'll have the first coat on. I don't know if I'll need to put a second coat. I may. And then after that, I can start putting the nonskid. I can start putting on the nonskid Gelcoat. Okay, so I got 2 more to do, and then I got to go do some grocery shopping and take a shower, grocery shop, and cook dinner. Just got to measure this out. So there's these little lines on here. So I'm going to be using, looks like about 1/4 of an ounce. It's roughly about 60 drops for 4 ounces is what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to eyeball it. If you put too much mech in, it'll harden really fast. It'll start to gel, and it gives you less time to work with. Also, if you over catalyze, I notice that the Gelcoat will tend to crack. If you under catalyze, it won't cure completely. I like it slightly under. It tends to be a little more rubbery. And I think that's a good thing because, you know, I'm going over this is plywood that the cabin's made out of, and wood expands and contracts in the heat. So I like it to be a little flexible, just, you know, but you want enough so it's going to harden and be tough. And so at any rate, so I just dumped the mech in. There you go. That's 4 ounces of Gelcoat here mixed up. Now you want to mix it really good. I actually like the smell of this stuff. Reminds me of sailboats. Back in the 70s, a friend of mine bought a Catalina 30, a brand new boat. And man, when I first went on board, you could really smell the fiberglass. But it's actually brings back good memories. I know I pointed this out earlier, but this is real important. You want to dip straight down into the bucket and then tap the sides like this. and that'll keep it from dripping. And then try to stay over the area you're working in case you do drip it. You don't drip it on an area that's already finished. And then just dabble it in, just like that. You got to work pretty fast. I don't like stuff where you have to work fast. I like to take my time when I'm doing stuff, but you know, it's just one of those things that when you're working with this stuff, whenever you're laying up fiberglass or gel coating, you have to work fast. And when you tap the sides, try to keep the gel coat down and low inside the bucket. Don't get any up on top, because then you'll get it on your hands, and once you start getting paint on your hands, it just ends up being a mess everywhere. You can also use gel coat with wax to cut the oxygen off, because gel coat and also polyester resin that you use when you're laying up fiberglass, you have to cut the oxygen off or it won't completely cure. So you can use PVA, or you can use wax that's in the resin or the gel coat. I'm going to try PVA this time. So at any rate, I'm just pulling this up, and it's looking pretty good. This is the messy part, so you got to be careful. The wind always starts blowing when I do this. Every time. You don't want it to get away from you, because it's got gel coat all over it, and if it hits something, it's going to make a mess. Okay, good. That's good. I just drop this in the bucket like that. Okay, I'm getting ready to remove the blue tape around the base of this railing. I gel coated this yesterday, and it's still a little soft, so I should be able to cut this with the razor knife. The reason I had to wait on this is I had to let this stuff cure, because if I tried to pull this tape off with this gel coat still wet, I would have made a mess. So there's just no other way to do this. So I just use this razor knife, and I cut around the parts that are attached to the cabin top. If I wait a few days and do this, this stuff will be so cured that I wouldn't be able to cut it with the razor knife. And I'd have to literally use a chisel and hammer to chip it loose, which I had to do last time. I had both resin and gel coat, resin from fiberglassing it and gel coat on here last time, so I didn't have time to pull it off. Because I was doing all this by myself and just didn't have time. That's it. That's all I got to do, like that. And it peels right off, and it looks good. And this time I got the gel coat up close to the wood, so there shouldn't get any rainwater under the gel coat, cause any problems. That looks really good. I'm real happy with that one. Okay, so I got 3 more to do on this railing and 4 to do on the next railing, and I'm done completely. Now I'm going to leave the rest of this covering on the railing because I still got to do the non-skid gel coat around this. I'm going to have to retape this on the gel coat that I just laid up yesterday. It'll be taped over. Actually, first I'm going to put tape around it. I'm going to spray it with PVA, so I'm going to put some 2-inch wide masking tape around this, and then that way the PVA won't get all over. It'll just get on the area I want it to get on, and I'll let that set for a few days. It'll cure, and it'll harden up the gel coat. And then I think I can just go and sand the PVA off, because I have to sand this gel coat down smooth. Okay, I'm getting ready to apply PVA. I got the spray bottle here. Unfortunately, this nozzle, I tried 2 of them. I can't get them to produce a good spray pattern, so I may have to use a paintbrush to paint it on. Now you can use a paintbrush. You can only give 1 coat with a brush, because if you try to go over it a second time, you're just gonna remove the first coat. So let's see what happens. Looks like I'm gonna have to use the brush. I'm just going to use the brush because this is making a mess already. Well, boats are designed to shed water, unfortunately. When you're trying to do something like this, it causes the whatever you're applying, liquid, to run. Just make sure I got it coated all the way across, just like that. I think that's good enough. Anyway, so I got it applied. It's thin coat, but it should coat it pretty good. So at any rate, I'll let this sit overnight, and then tomorrow I'll check it. And I've never used it before, so I'll see how easy it is to remove. I think you can just easily wash it off with soap and water, and or sand it off. This PVA is also used for when you use a mold, when you're making fiberglass parts using molds. And so what you do is you coat the inside of the mold with PVA, and it also helps to release the fiberglass from the mold after it cures. And that's the main reason for it, but you can also use it like what I'm doing here to cut the oxygen off to the gel coat or to fiberglass resin to let it cure to 100%. And so I'm going to have to let it cure to 100% so I can then sand it smooth. It's a little ripply because gel coat doesn't go on real flat when you use a brush. Okay, I'm going to use some warm water and a rag to wipe the PVA that I applied yesterday, and this caused the gel coat to cure to 100%, and I can tell it's pretty tough. It was a little soft yesterday, but it's not now. So I'm going to just wash this off, and then I can sand it. I'm going to leave the tape on, kind of give me a little protection when I'm sanding the gel coat around the gel coat I just laid up, if that makes sense. So this should just wipe right off, and if it don't, yeah, it's coming off. Then I'll just sand it off. I think I'm just going to wipe it off. Yeah, just like that. And that part's done. So it's coming off pretty easy. It's the first time I've ever done this, so yeah, I never know what to expect. Got a little bit of biodegradable dish soap. It's clear, and so I'm just going to put a little of that in there and see if I can wet sand this. I don't know, we'll see what happens. I'm going to go ahead and sand this now. I'm using pretty coarse paper because it's pretty ripply still, and I still got a ways to go to get it flat. Then eventually I'll take it down with the finer sandpaper. So this is actually 80 grit, and I'm going to see what it's like sanding it dry. And it's taking it down pretty good. Amazing. And that's dry. Paper's pretty clean. Now I'm going to try over here. Try this area wet. Let's see what happens. Well, one good thing, I don't create any dust when I wet sand. Just a kind of a runny paste, which I'm going to have to make sure I don't get on my windows here. So I have to keep wiping them up. Yeah, it looks like it's looking pretty good. I think it's probably working better than dry. And that works pretty good. That worked better wet, for sure. So the soap creates a lubricant. So I used Open Nature biodegradable dish soap, and it's clear color. So I just added it a little to this bottle of hot water or warm water. It's getting a little cool now, still a little warm. And that's all I'm using. And so now I got to continue on with all 4 of these rails, and just doing this. The one on the other side, I had some low spots, so I put in quite a bit of Gelcoat to fill in the low spots. Now it's kind of humped up, so I'll probably use my little belt sander to take those high spots down, and then I'll just have to do the same thing over there like I'm doing here with this. And so I have to get all these sanded, and then I can get ready to start prepping to put the non-skid surface on. Okay, I just wet sanded the Gelcoat here, and I'm glad I left the blue tape on. It really worked out good. I took it down somewhat. I used some pretty rough paper. I used 80 grit, which normally when you wet sand you'll use like 220 or even 300 and something. But at any rate, I just wanted to level it off because the Gelcoat, I put it on with a brush. It wasn't real level, brush strokes and just ups and downs, and it brought it down pretty good. I was starting to see a couple little pinholes, and I wasn't sure if I was starting to remove too much Gelcoat. It was really taking it down. It's some of these areas it feels like it's about the same thickness as this tape, and it was higher than the tape when I started. So it looks pretty good. It's not perfect, but I think I'm going to live with this for now, and because I need to get this non-skid on, and if I have to, I can always come back later and redo this again. So it's not perfect, and I'm not going for a mirror finish. This is an old boat, and the hull's not a mirror finish, and so it's an old boat, and I like it to look a little old anyway. So anyway, so I'm just going to peel this tape up and see what it looks like. That's where you'll find out if you've got quality masking tape, how easy it pulls up. Okay, there's a lot of PVA ran underneath the tape, so I'm going to have to wipe that up. When I started this project, I pulled a lot of teak trim off the sides of the cabin here. It was about this wide, top and bottom, and along the back and along the front. And I left a ridge where a piece of teak went in. The back of the boat, which I'm going to show in a minute, is it's all teak, and then it wraps around, and then there's one plank, flat plank of teak along the back side going up and down. Well, I left that. Oh, there's a little bit of an overhang because I decided I wasn't going to put any trim back on. I was debating on whether to do that or not, and decided I'm not going to drill a bunch of holes in my fiberglass that I just laid up so the water can get into it. And so I decided I'm not going to put that teak trim back on the back here, so I need to cut that lip off. So I'm going to use this oscillating tool, and it just vibrates. These things are actually pretty safe. You probably can't cut yourself with them, but it's kind of like what a doctor uses to take a cast off your arm. And so it vibrates, and it's got a serrated edge here, and you can get different types of cutting bits for these that'll cut through different materials, even into metal. And they work really good. So I'm going to have to cut this edge off, and I'm going to use this tool. This is the teak I was talking about. So this is the back of the boat here, the back of the cabin, and so the teak kind of comes around here on the edge, and I need to cut this lip off here. So this lip right here sticks out. I'm going to go under it with this oscillating tool. I'm going to have to cut right into here and cut about I'd say 1/8 of an inch into this teak and all the way through like this, all the way up and down, even this up here. So Yeah, because I'm going to get ready to put this non-skid on top, and I don't want this piece sticking out here. So this is going to all have to be resurfaced. I don't know if I'll have to go back in. This has all been fiberglass. I'm hoping there's no air under here. There might be, and I might have to use some filler or something to fill that in. But at any rate, that'll be coming up soon.